Here we are at example 1 from our 2.1 set of notes. But before we really dive into this guy, we have to go ahead and look at this definition for what is a relation to kind of help us out. Well, the definition for a relation is simply a correspondent where every single member in the domain goes to at least one member in the range. Now, when I think of the word relation, I kind of think of the word relationships. And so what kind of comes also to mind are like friendships. Now, luckily, I have more than just one friend. I have at least one friend, but I have a couple of friends, maybe like, I don't know, 3 or 4. I don't know. I don't really keep track. But anyway, I've got at least one friend. Now, when we're looking at like this word domain, those are simply your input values or your x's. The range are pretty much like whatever you plug in for your domain, your input values, you get something out of it. Much actually like a relationship. Like the more time that you put into a friendship, odds are the better your friendship's going to be. Much like what a range would be, your output as a result of that. So when we're looking at example 1, we see that we have the domain for the relation. Here is that relation. 5/8 x minus 2 is this -8, 0, and 4. Again, this is the domain. And because it's the domain, these are specifically our x values. And we're asked to find the range for this relation. In other words, what are our y values? So, all we have to really do is pretty much go ahead and plug in our values for x and just see what is that range for the relation. So for our first one, we'll just start off with -8. Well, we have y is equal to 5/8 times, going ahead and plugging in -8, minus 2. Just doing a little bit of algebra. 8 goes into 8 one time. So really we have 5 times -1. So that just gives us -5 minus 2. So that just simply comes out to be -7. When we go ahead and try the value 0 for our domain and plugging that in, we end up with y is equal to 5/8 times 0 minus 2. Well, anything times 0, unless we're talking about calculus, but we're not there right now, is just going to end up coming out to be 0 minus 2. So 0 minus 2 just comes out to be then -2. So the relation, when you throw in 0, comes out to be -2. Now we're going to go ahead and throw in our last value, 4. So we end up then with y is equal to 5/8 times 4 minus 2. Well, this 4 goes into 8 twice. So we end up with just a 2 on the bottom. So we have really 5/2 minus 2. Simplifying this down, this is hard to kind of combine. I mean, you could do a little bit of foo here to kind of get, to be able to combine these two fractions. We could also just make this a proper fraction. And when you do that, 5/2 is the same thing as saying 2 1/2 minus 2. And so 2 1/2 minus 2 just simply comes out to be 1/2 left over. So that was finally our range for this specific domain when we plugged 4 in. We ended up with 1/2. So again, a relation is simply just kind of like a bond between x's and y's. Like you can plug in different x's, get some different y's. And that's actually very important to notice, especially because it's going to be very, very different from a definition that we're about to cover in a moment, the function definition. But again, that is example 1 from our 2.1 set of notes.